What's up, fuckers? Welcome to Culturally Illiterate, a podcast where four friends overthink comic book movies. And yeah, that's us. We're your friends. I'm one of your hosts. I'm Jason, and I'm allergic to bees. And with me are my co-hosts.
Yup, my name's Matt. And my fun fact is, I'm not your friend. Moving on.
Damn.
Perfect. Wow. Way to make them love you, Matt. All right, so I am Sean, one of the other hosts of this incredible disaster. So my fun fact is that in 2021, since we're going to be talking about Batman, this lines up very well. To celebrate the 80th anniversary of the Penguin's first comic book appearance, Danny DeVito wrote a comic book story called Bird Cat Love about the Penguin and Catwoman falling in love and solving the COVID-19 pandemic.
Wait, is it really about that?
Yes.
I knew he wrote a Penguin short. They did like a Batman villain special, and there's a bunch of like shorts about various, and he wrote a story for it, but I had no idea what it was about.
That's what it's
about. That is so insane.
They
and now I
have
need to read it.
Loads of sex and solve COVID-19.
Jesus Christ, I need to read that ASAP. I didn't get it because it was like this giant oversized issue, and it was like a bunch of like I just wasn't in the market for it, but now I'm like, fuck. Anyway, I'm Jake, the last host, and it's important that you know that hard-boiled eggs make me gag. Yeah, that's all of us, all four of us. How about that, guys?
Hard-boiled eggs are actually pretty delicious in like an egg salad.
No, they're disgusting. Egg salad is horrible.
It depends.
No, it's bad.
Do you like
Deviled
eggs?
Bad. Hard-boiled eggs bad. Eggs in any kind of egg salad, potato salad, macaroni salad, bad.
What about just like scrambled eggs?
Scrambled eggs are good. Did I say scrambled or did I say hard-boiled, Sean?
You just said hard-boiled, so I just want to know if it's only hard-boiled or if there are other eggs.
Hard-boiled have a different taste and smell. It is specifically hard-boiled eggs that'll make me gag.
There is like a hard-boiled egg like sauce that like Japanese people make. It's like taking like hard-boiled eggs, chopping it into like very thin slices, and then mixing it with like relish. Oh, not relish. They cut like tiny dill pickles, and then they put in mustard. They put in like salt and pepper. They mix it all together, and it makes like a little like a little egg sauce you put on fried food. It's actually really good.
Hard-boiled eggs are gross. I think less of you if you like hard-boiled eggs.
That sounds pretty good, though.
Anyone listening, if you like hard-boiled eggs,
it's just that he's a closed-minded fuck. So
I have like a very open palate. That is completely not true.
Let's bring up Jason's
what I
palate.
eat could rival what you eat.
Really?
For sure. I'll eat almost. I don't like hard-boiled eggs, and I don't like raw celery in large chunks. And that's about it.
I love eggs, but I've never had hard-boiled eggs, so I don't know what my opinion on that is.
You can't eat them by themselves. I'll tell you that.
I can eat hard-boiled eggs by themselves.
Huh?
They're fantastic. I love eggs, any kind.
I respect you so much less now. Jesus.
I mean, like, if you salt them, they're fine, but like, there's so many better ways of eating them.
There's a video of Danny DeVito eating a hard-boiled egg, and it's so fucking funny.
Oh yeah, it was like when he was doing like a play or something like that. You know what I'm talking about?
He took a cane and put the hard-boiled egg on the ground and like cracked it with the cane.
Yeah,
the cane.
He was playing a character in like a Broadway show, and basically like he had to like speak his line while cracking open and eating a hard-boiled egg. It was wonderful. Like he was like crackling it. He opened his bag and he broke the eggshells into the bag, and he was eating it as he was speaking his lines. It's amazing.
This man's a national treasure.
He's a professional.
I have a story.
Go on.
You know, you could just like say it.
Yeah.
But that isn't as funny. At work the other day, I told you guys about this, but a customer told me that she needed her receipt. You know, I ask all the customers when I ring them out, like, do you need your receipt? And she said, yeah, I guess I need it in case I kill someone and I need an alibi. And she was such a, like, sweet old lady. And she was like, yeah, I guess I need it in case I kill someone. And I was like, all right.
I also don't know how effective of an alibi that would be, because the receipt would say when she was there and at what time, but if she kills someone later, but that doesn't clear her.
But if she killed them like soon after, then she could plausibly say,
I guess,
well, this happened.
I'm sure they'd be able to define that, like, okay, if she was able to do it soon after, I'm sure they could deduce that she was able to do it after that. And you would have video cameras of her leaving.
It'd be worse if she picked up some schmeat and then killed that person with said schmeat.
No, she got a sandwich.
Oh, that's disappointing.
There was no meat on the sandwich?
Well, I don't know. I didn't. It's possible that there wasn't. Could have been a caprese sandwich.
Likely story.
Also, I want to recommend the band Like Pacific. They're a good pop punk band if you're into shit like Story so far, Knuckle Puck, that kind of aggressive pop punk music. They're a real good band. They're really underrated. They don't get a lot of streaming numbers, but I've been listening to them a lot lately, and all three of their full albums are great. I'd recommend starting with their first album, Distant Like You Asked. And that's my rec this week.
I gotta say, we're a little low energy today. I think we may be more entertaining when we watch a shit movie than when we watch a good one. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like we don't come in...
I feel satisfied.
Yeah,
I feel satisfied.
I don't feel like when I come in to the recording room, like I'm ready to tear this movie apart. I don't have that energy. And so like it seems like we're coming in with low energy, but like we're just satisfied. We're just happy.
I've come in with love.
The other thing is, I think like when we've watched a bad movie, we're doing everything possible to talk about something other than that movie and like putting off the start of the conversation. Whereas now I'm sitting down and kind of like, okay, well, I just want to talk about what we watched, you know?
I know. It's a strange feeling.
I'm just so tired today.
I feel like I'm also more on the lines of I just saw a great movie, and that's like all I can say is that good movie. Good movie.
Not that you won't be able to tell from the title, and if you just, keep up with it, what we watched, but you want to get into that now?
Yes, I was going to use a transition.
I was going to use a transition.
As
you
we
ruined
mentioned
it, Jake.
Danny DeVito earlier, that brings us into this week's film. This episode, we're covering the one and only Batman Returns. You fucked up in the...
Typoed,
yep,
yeah. I typed
you fucked
it.
up in the
Let me
outline.
fix it right now. Let me fix it right now. What are you talking about? It says Batman Returns right there.
Wait, what did you...
He just wrote Batman.
I just forgot to put in Return.
I read it and I was like...
We're covering Batman.
It was so good we decided to run it back.
Anyway, we're covering Batman Returns, released on June 19th, 1992, written by Daniel Waters and Sam Hamm, sick name, directed by Tim Burton and shot by Stefan Zapsky, with music by Danny Elfman, based on character created by Bill Finger. Nice. And only Bill Finger. Fuck that other guy. So what's up? Oh, I skipped a part. Starring Michael Keaton as Bruce Wayne / Batman. Michelle Pfeiffer.
That's the part you skipped.
Fuck you. Michelle Pfeiffer as Selena Kyle / Catwoman. The one and only Danny DeVito as Oswald Cobblepot / the Penguin, of course. Christopher Walken as Max Schreck. And Michael Gough as Alfred. What's everyone's prior experience with this film?
Before that, I'm going to chime in and say I think the grand experiment of having someone other than Jake read has failed and it'll never happen again. I'd like to issue a formal apology to any listeners.
What did I do wrong?
You don't know how to read.
Listen, man, you're all over the place. It's not just you, Matt. It's Matt. It's, look, it's just no one's as good as me. I'm the main character. I'm who people are coming
I'm
here.
quitting the podcast.
Yeah, so I'll say, Jason, we should boycott this and never come back.
No, guys, I'm moving. You have to miss me and love me.
No. We
No,
don't.
I'm mad at you for abandoning me.
Or did you abandon me?
No,
Did you drive me to this?
I haven't gone anywhere.
I think you guys drove me to this.
I didn't drive you anywhere.
I'm moving, guys.
I think you should come with Jake.
Shout out to Priya, my soon-to-be Prumi.
I'm disgusted.
He's taking his
I'm
talents elsewhere. That's all I'll say. So, no one answered my fucking question. What's your prior experience with the movie?
My prior experience with this movie is I watched it when I was younger and I thought it was pretty good. And then the last time I rewatched it, I was like, wow, this movie's a fucking masterpiece. And then I rewatched it again with the aforementioned Priya and was like, wow, this is really a fucking masterpiece. And then I watched it today and was like, goddamn, still a masterpiece.
Yeah, I'm gonna go out of the order that we usually go in. Or no, this is the order we usually go in. Never mind. Okay, I'm so goddamn tired. Anyway, yeah, I've seen this movie plenty of times. Similarly to the previous Batman movie that we watched, I love this movie, so I've watched it plenty of times. I think the last time I watched it was probably within the past 5 years, probably. So it's been a little while, but it's still, something I go back to. Yeah.
Well, I watched it when I was younger, and it had a very good impression on me. I remembered plenty of scenes from this movie, especially the ending. And I am glad this is not one of those cases where the movie didn't live up to the nostalgic hype. I am so happy right now.
Same as Matt. I kind of haven't seen this movie in a while since I was little. I remember loving it a lot as a kid. As I said before, I had a little Batman toy. I had the Batmobile. that like drive around. I had that thing until I was old, and I don't know what the fuck happened to it.
The
It
Batman
probably
car?
still exists somewhere. The fuck off. It's the Bat car now. Don't tell me otherwise.
I was wondering if you were gonna say it correctly this time.
But yeah. So most of these movies I've realized there are a lot of like things that I've watched prior to, but I really haven't gone back to any of them since I've become an adult. More or less, these are movies that I've seen as like a child. So like it's just nice to go down this walk through memory lane and find movies that I love, and also find movies that I absolutely despise, but mostly movies that I love.
Basically, what I've noticed is if it's a good movie, you've seen it before because it's a good movie, and if it's a bad movie, you didn't watch it because you're not an idiot, and you only watch it because I forced you all through a lot of bad movies.
Yeah, so basically what you're saying is that we're idiots for accepting a role here.
You all could have said no. Listen. Again, what happened was I did this by myself, just watched all the movies, was like, why the fuck did I do that? Well, you know what? I already sunk the time. I might as well do it again, but now make it a podcast and try to manipulate my friends into doing this. I thought it was going to require manipulation. Y'all all said yes right away.
Well, listen,
I don't know if you fully comprehended
the
scale.
I don't have much going on, so
Jake tied me to a chair and told me to stay here against my will so that I could be recording this.
that is true. I saw him do it.
You know the safe word. You can always say it.
This is a cry for help.
Let's get into some plot, shall we? Two wealthy socialists.
Socialites. Very much not socialists. They're very
that
one percenters.
that was,
I don't know why you're having a problem here. I love this so far.
Two wealthy socialites, dismayed at the birth of their malformed and feral son, Oswald Cobblepot, discard the infant in the sewers, where he is adopted by a family of penguins.
Did you say... What is it?
What?
Did
Matt
you say
really about to correct
Cobbleport?
someone.
Cobbleport?
He said
I
Cobblepot.
stumbled over the words at first and corrected myself.
Matt's never allowed to correct someone for mispronouncing something, let alone a name.
Yeah, how do you... Yeah, what fucking company makes Nesquik, alright? Tell us that. Nestle is what he'll say, you piece of shit. Anyway.
Nestle is also a piece of shit.
Yeah, Nestle, which, is
Nestle.
pronounced Nestle.
Alright, anyway, 33 years later.
33 years later, during the Christmas season, wealthy industrialist Max Schreck is abducted by the Red Triangle Gang. I don't know why you think I know this next one.
Cadre.
A cadre.
Pretty phonetical.
Okay, but sometimes it's not phonetical. Anyway, a cadre of former circus workers connected to multiple child disappearances across the nation and brought to their hideout in the Arctic exhibit at the Derelict. I've never seen that word written, I've only heard it said.
Oh, I would like to point out that Jason asked to read for today.
I also barely know how to read. Derelict Gotham Zoo. Red Triangle's leader Oswald, now named Penguin, blackmails Shrek using recovered evidence of his corruption and murderous acts to force his assistance in reintegrating Oswald back into Gotham's elite. Shrek orchestrates a staged kidnapping attempt on the mayor's infant child, allowing Oswald to rescue it and become a public hero. In exchange, Oswald requests access to the city's birth records, ostensibly to learn his true identity, while identifying Gotham's firstborn sons.
Off the bat, real quick, yet another shout out to Priya. Orchestrate. I know you noticed it when Jason said it. You know what that's about. Anyway, yeah, I think the opening of this movie with the abandonment of Oswald is maybe my favorite opening of a movie we've watched for this so far.
Yeah, probably same.
I find it funny that he killed the cat right in like
I know.
first couple of minutes of the movie.
It's
I
foreshadowing.
completely forgot about the part where he just grabs the cat's tail and drags it in and then presumably murders and eats it.
Yeah. Like, at first, like, they
As
were,
a
like,
baby.
so, like, horrified by the appearance of their own child. And I thought, you think at first, seeing that they caged their own child was pretty cruel until, like, the cage starts shaking. Like, there was a feral animal inside. And then when the cat comes, grabs it and starts eating it. It's pretty nasty, but it's awesome.
Yeah, I remember the first time I watched this, like, watching the opening scene and just loving everything about it, like the way the Cobblepot estate looks and everything, and how we don't even, you know, like, we just see the cage and we don't really know what goes on in there, and I like how it's just kind of indirect. Like, it doesn't show you him being a feral, malformed baby. It's just kind of, like, implied a little bit until we see him later on.
So you get the big reveal with the great, I believe the word you're looking for is, line.
Yeah.
And you actually get your first full look at a very, really, I feel like this goes against the theme of the movie to say, but fucked up looking penguin.
Yeah, just, like, gruesome.
Yeah, gruesome. The gruesome twosome, foreshadowing.
Oh, yeah.
Sunny foreshadowing. Yeah, I mean, the movie comes out kicking with, like, you know, two people abandoning a baby, and you're like, well, how fucked up is this baby? And I also want to mention, in regards to the Red Triangle Gang, all of the Batman movies subsequent to the 90s ones, subsequent after Burton and Schumacher, do away with, and for some reason I get ridiculously over-the-top themed gangs, and I would like to bring that back, please.
They're so fun.
I love that there's a circus-themed gang. I liked the Joker's gang, the Matching Jackets last movie. We'll talk about it more when we get to them, but I love the themed gangs in the Schumacher movies, and I get why, like, it doesn't really would have been a little out of place maybe in the Nolan movies, in the Snyder stuff, in the Reeves stuff, but man, I would love to see that again.
I feel like you could have a creative gang in one of those movies. Obviously, it would be a bit more serious, but I feel like you could make something themed to make a message.
I don't. Yeah, I guess you can say that. But I like the over the top henchmen, like the circus theme ones. Like
I love the thematics
else
of it.
Like, in what other scenario would a gang a gang member riding a unicycle while firing a machine gun be appropriate? Like, it's awesome.
I love the
You
fire
don't
breather.
see this anymore. I wish you see this more. It's so fun.
Yeah, it also, like, I don't know, while I was watching it, like, for whatever reason, it reminded me of Batman Beyond with the Joker gang in Batman Beyond.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, like they're a violent gang, but they're in like full clown makeup.
Yeah, well, it just, like, the fact that they were, like, circus people that were, like, in clown looking makeup just reminded me of that.
And it all ties into just this unabashed, like, not caring, because why should you care about the almost practicality of it all? It's the movie is so spectacle driven, and it's also very thematically rich. But you're talking about a movie that has, like, inexplicably, like, Gotham sewers that are overrun with penguins, and I know it's, like, from the zoo or whatever, but, like, it's still so ridiculous. And that, between that and, like, the gangs, is just another example of being, like, over the top and, like, just a slave to the aesthetic in the best way possible.
Yeah, those were the best looking sewers I have ever seen.
Those are the cutest looking penguins I've ever seen. Those
Oh
guys
my god!
waddling around.
One sec. We'll get into that later, especially when they strap rockets to them.
Yeah, well, this movie, I think, it's such a good middle ground straight from the beginning of, like, having the over-the-top, ridiculous spectacles while still being a very well-crafted story and serious at moments.
It feels intimate.
Yeah, like, it's just, we kind of, like, get one or the other sometimes with today's movies, where, like, we don't really get, like it does acknowledge that, like, it's a wacky concept to begin with, Batman. It just is. And so it kind of leans into that with, it being so over the top with everything it does, while still being...
But there's passion put into it.
Exactly.
It's obvious that the people who worked on this cared to, like, make a good movie.
It wasn't just over the top for the sake of being over the top.
Exactly.
They cared, and they worked together so like, they were also in sync, I think, in a way that, and this goes for all of the movie, but I think Penguin is, like, as an individual example, is perfect of just, like, the combination of taking the source material but combining it with directorial vision, combining it with the script written by Ham and Waters, combining it with DeVito's performance, and just the way in which playing into everything that DeVito is, everything that Burton is, everything that the screenwriters are, in a way that molds a pre-existing character into a new image that perfectly sums up everything that the movie is trying to accomplish, in terms of what happens when people are cast out of society, what happens in terms of the fallout of generational wealth, and this goes for a lot of things in the movie, but I think Penguin is the early and possibly the best example of just everybody in this movie working together so seamlessly.
Yeah.
Before we go further, we should talk about Danny DeVito as the Penguin. He is magnificent.
What a man.
Danny DeVito he's one of those actors that's interesting because, like, you know, sometimes this can be a bad thing of, like, being so recognizable that it's like you can only see them as that person and not whoever they're playing. But I think he's so to that point that he's like come back around, that it's like he's so recognizable in anything that he does, but he's also so good at it that it doesn't matter that it's Danny DeVito. It's just like, this guy's fucking incredible.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know it's Danny DeVito the whole time in the movie just because he's Danny DeVito, but at no point do I look at the Penguin and go like, oh, it's Danny DeVito as the Penguin. I see, you know, something else, that character, rather than, you know...
Like, for example, someone like I think that can happen a lot with is Ashton Kutcher, where, like, even in roles where he's good, there's a part of me that's just like, that's Ashton Kutcher. I can't, you know,
shout out Vengeance,
myself.
Good movie, real quick.
Yeah, also check out Vengeance. He was in that, and he was very good in that, and I really, really liked that movie. But my point is, like, he's just he has such a persona outside of being an actor that even in roles where he's good, sometimes it's just like, it's fucking Ashton Kutcher. You know what I mean?
So it turns out I was muted that whole time, so apologies for that. Quick rundown. I love the suit. He has peak male physique. He has amazing makeup, especially with the fingers, right? He has flipper fingers, and he has like great makeup with a pale face, sunken dark eyes, and he has an elongated nose, so make him look more penguin-like. Also, he seems to be wearing like an inflation suit to make him look rounder, and he waddles around, which is adorable. Danny DeVito's amazing.
Legend.
Don't mute your mic anymore.
I was
taking a sip of water.
But here's the thing. How many times have I called that if Matt mutes his mic, he's going to do that? He would be the first to do it. And I've also talked about Matt Matt having a drink of water is going to be a disaster at some point. And it led to this.
Hey, it happened once.
It led to this moment.
I'm 12 episodes down.
So far.
I'd kind of also like to add that, like, I really like... You know, right from the start of the movie, you kind of see a lot of the duality between, like, you know, the Penguin and Batman, and like a lot of this movie is a lot of like characters you can really compare to Batman as a character, and like just kind of a lot of them relate to him in a way that it's more like they're kind of like him, but they've kind of, I'm trying to think of the right word.
They've gone down a different road.
They've mutated into something other than like something that stands for justice, and it's like seeing the differences in the duality of like people who are like Batman and what they can become, as opposed to being, you know, what makes Batman such a unique and interesting character, and what makes him, you know, what makes Batman Batman. And it's kind of seeing like how that can be like, you know, mutated into something worse, or something that's, you know, not so, I want to say pure, but obviously Batman's a freak himself. He a freak. So it's interesting to see, like, even from the start of the movie, you see like it not in the same way, but in a similar fashion, Oswald loses his parents because they just kind of give him away by throwing him into the sewer.
Well, I don't think it's giving away, rather than, you know,
attempted murder.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's not.
But in the same way that he has essentially lost, in big quotations, his parents, Batman has also lost his parents. So it's kind of just like an interesting kind of, you can see the comparison there. You can see the comparison in other characters that we'll get into more later.
And that's why I think like a powerful moment in the movie is upon Penguin's like reveal to the public, Bruce's first reaction is, I hope he finds his parents. Like, before anything else, the phrase just, I hope this guy finds his parents.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah, I think it was like when he saw him with Shrek and being like so intimate together, it's just like, oh, then he has his suspicions. Then he had his suspicions. But like, I don't know why I couldn't say that word.
I can't help but laugh anytime somebody says Shrek, because I'm imagining Danny DeVito as the Penguin sitting next to Shrek.
Shrek voiced by Christopher Walken.
Unfortunately, this is young Christopher Walker, so the
It's funny 'cause
accent.
it's Christopher Walken.
Walken? Shit. Christopher Walken.
Don't disrespect
like,
the legend.
The thing is that the stereotypical like Christopher Walken voice doesn't come up that often. It does come up here
he has
and
that
there.
pacing still, that where he just
you
the last word. Of
Oh,
the
yeah,
whenever he says a sentence, the last word is like 4 seconds spaced out from the rest of them, and it's great.
Yeah, it's true. But yeah, like
He's so good. He's, you may know him from Click, the iconic Adam Sandler movie.
Of all movies, Click is what you're
That's
gonna.
honestly
That's a
the only
classic
movie
right
I can
there.
think of that I've seen that has Christopher Walken in it off the top of my head.
Speaking of Walken, can you actually read the next paragraph? Because I have a lot of thoughts I want to say on Shrek, but I kind of want to save. I want to.
God damn it, Sean! No, I can't help but laugh at
the whole
it.
fucking podcast.
I have a lot of thoughts on
God damn it!
Where you broke the seal, and now it's just, I have a lot of Shrek opinions that I'm going to save for further in the plot.
Anyway, Shrek attempts to kill his meek secretary Selena Kyle by pushing her out of a window after she inadvertently uncovers his plot to build a power plant that will covertly siphon and hoard electricity from Gotham. However, she survives, returns home, and in her anger crafts herself a costume and takes the name Catwoman. Selena later returns to work confident and aggressive, catching the attention of visiting billionaire Bruce Wayne as his alter ego, the vigilante Batman.
As his alter ego, the vigilante Bruce Wayne.
Batman. Wayne investigates Oswald. Suspicious he is connected to Red Triangle. To eliminate opposition to his plant, Shrek convinces Oswald to run for mayor and discredit the incumbent by having Red Triangle cause havoc throughout Gotham. Batman's efforts to stop Red Triangle eventually bring him into conflict with Catwoman. Selena and Wayne begin dating, while Catwoman allies with Oswald to disgrace Batman.
I'd like to point out real quick, I have to cut in and talk first again, as always, because the plot, somebody here really buries the lead. Selena doesn't survive. She is killed and magically resurrected by getting licked by a bunch of alley cats. And I think that is vital to understand, because this movie is exactly that type of movie. And it does not do any justice to Catwoman's redone origin in this to just say she's pushed out a window and survives. No, she very much dies and gets magically resurrected by cat licks.
Well, I like that it's more like insinuated. You can't see
It's
like
not insinuated. She resurrects several times. The whole point of the movie is she has 9
true.
lives.
Yeah, never mind.
It's not insinuated. There's no like pulse monitor.
Because like in my head, I'm comparing this to like the Halle Berry movie and how they did that resurrection.
I don't want to get into that until we absolutely have to, because fuck that movie. But which is supposed to be canon to these movies. But no, yeah, it is definitely. I mean, she's magically resurrected by cats. You should appreciate that. You're a cat guy. You want to talk about your cats a little bit?
Huh? Yeah, I have 3 of them. One's name's Biscuit, one's name's Oreo, the other one's name's Bagel.
Have you tried jumping out a window and letting them lick you?
I'll probably die and they'll probably eat my corpse.
But what if you gain some lives?
Oh, fun fact, one of them was actually eating Selena because she was dead.
Well, yeah, that one was nibbling her
Question
finger.
about your cats. Do you plan to always name them after food? Okay,
Yes.
I appreciate that. I'm not a cat guy, but I appreciate it.
I like cats.
They're cute.
You're just like my girlfriend.
How so?
She wants to name every single animal she gets after food.
Well, I'm already doing it, so.
For reference, she has 3 ferrets. One of them she got before she had this plan and named them Wiggles. The other 2 are named Noodle and Chicken Nugget.
Chicken Nugget's too long of a name.
No.
Selena Kyle's great, man.
Her apartment's great. I love the look of her apartment, and when it gets fucking wrecked after her
Let's talk
resurrection.
about that real quick. It's like all pink, and there's like a little neon sign that says hello there. And then as soon as she gets resurrected, she's like starts destroying everything. And then she takes like a black spray can and starts like spraying her walls black, like ripping her clothes down. And then on the way to make the Catwoman suit, she like hits the sign a couple times, which is paid off later when you see like the silhouette of her full like leather Catwoman suit. Before you see that, the sign went from hello there to hell here. I thought that was pretty cool.
It's really, the shot from like outside the apartment of like looking in the window as she comes out in the Catwoman suit, and the hell here sign is illuminated in the window of a snowy Gotham. Good stuff. I don't have anything more eloquent to say than that. Everyone in this movie is so perfect at what they're doing. And one of the things I wanted to talk about actually at this point is Christopher Walken as Max Schreck. Now that we've gotten a little bit more into his role in the movie, because I think I understand why, because of the nature of Keaton as Batman, DeVito as Penguin, and Pfeiffer as Catwoman, he is easily the most like forgotten about kind of element of the movie. But he is equally essential. He's absolutely vital. His performance as Shrek and just Shrek as a character. Should I just start calling him Max?
No, he's Max Shrek. You don't understand. He's Shrek, but another level.
Shrek to the max.
This is actually canon with the Shrek film.
This is the prequel to
I
Shrek.
want Tim Burton's Shrek.
Christopher Walken is the new voice for the Shrek
Who's
reboot.
Donkey?
No idea.
Danny
Donkey
DeVito.
is not the friendly beast you love. He is a hellish beast.
The dragon's a woman.
It's
Because
very
Donkey,
heteronormative of you.
because Donkey has babies with the dragon.
It's a reboot.
This is a realistic,
Okay,
gritty reboot.
We're getting off the rails. I wanted to say, I think Shrek as a character and Walken, who plays it very well as Shrek, is equally vital to this movie working and working as well as it does as Catwoman or Penguin or Batman himself. I don't think it works that well without him, because I think, playing off of what Sean said earlier about duality in the movie, Batman's almost this midpoint between Shrek and Penguin. What a sentence.
Fuck you, Sean.
I knew
You just pointed that out, and then we all can't stop
I
ourselves.
need you to understand, we need a graphic of Batman in the middle, and on one side is Shrek, and on the other side is a fucking penguin.
Picture Animorphs, an Animorphs cover, but it's Shrek morphing into Penguin, and in the midway point is Batman.
Oh my god.
If somehow somebody is listening to this that has Photoshop skills, can you please edit that to us and send it to the culture illiterate pod at gmail.com at unliterate_pod. If we somehow have a fan that's capable of making fan art, I would love so much. You will get a shout out, and it will be the thumbnail. If you can create a thumbnail for a future episode, even though it won't be fitting, an Animorphs cover of that. Not gonna happen. Nobody listens to this, but still.
Getting back to what you said.
Him being a midpoint?
Yes.
He's a midpoint in that, like, you have obviously the famous Bruce Wayne Batman origin, dead parents, blah, blah, blah. And then you have, compared to Oswald, another, firstborn son of a rich Gotham elite family, who oppositely is rejected by his parents. And then you have Max, someone who is obsessed with his legacy, obsessed with a large point of his motivation is he thinks there's never such thing as too much power. He says as much in the movie, talking literally about a power plant, but also obviously in, figuratively. And wants nothing more. His number one priority is he sees his name living on through his son, passing that generational wealth down, hoarding it for himself and his family rather than giving it to the people of Gotham, giving it to the people who are rejected. That while Penguin is someone who would be born into wealth, sees the other side of it after he is cast out because of appearances, and just reflecting that ugly side that Gotham doesn't want you to see, whereas Batman, of course, kind of represents that within the costume, but physically still appears as the very presentable, charismatic Bruce Wayne. And I think you need the Max Schreck character in there. Otherwise, obviously Batman and Penguin still have these parallels you can draw, but I think you need that third point between the three of them to reflect the different roles of rich white men within Gotham and the different levels of it, and Batman being kind of this weird midpoint, and especially how that eventually relates to Selina Kyle and the impact all three of them have on her life, and her quest for regaining control of herself and her life.
It's not like just that. It's just he's so involved with the movie, like throughout. Like he's involved with one of their origins, and not only that, he had so many key interactions with Penguin, especially with like how a lot of his plan goes out. It involves Shrek, I had to catch my breath there. But like yeah, like he's very important to the films, played very well by Christopher Walken, and you can't take him out of the film. He's too important to like the motivations of Catwoman, and yeah, the motivations of Penguin as well.
I mean, that another thing I do want to add that I know you mentioned the duality mostly between like the primary, you know, Penguin and Shrek. But like I think Catwoman also has a place in there too, because like it's the same idea of somebody donning a mask or donning, you know, their whole facade in the face of or in the name of vengeance, but in hers it's to like this radical extreme to the point where it's like, I don't do it for like a good cause, I do it just for the vengeance itself, versus Batman, who's like so intertwined in doing it for like good and the good of, you know, Gotham kind of. It's seeing like you see duality between that two, and all of the characters kind of playing into each other, and like this whole big square of them all connecting each one to each other, and kind of just having like this, there's a lot of synergy between it, and I kind of like it.
It's interesting that you say that, because I agree with a lot of what you said, but I personally feel that Catwoman, while she may be somewhat selfishly motivated of like, I want to kill Max Schreck, and that is like the end all be all, I do think, even if unintentional, there is a, maybe not altruistic, because again, if it's unintentional, it's not really altruistic, but motive in there of toppling what within killing Max Schreck, toppling what that represents, and toppling the inherent corruption built into the societal structure of Gotham, America. And I don't see Catwoman as very villainous in the movie. Like, you can, like, she's kind of like, when she saves that one woman from getting mugged, she saves a woman from getting mugged, and then she does turn around and kind of be an asshole. And kind of with the line about like, oh, you're just sitting here waiting for a Batman to save you. So she's not, you know, but I don't see her as, I think she's very, very, and I know you were saying this, but like close to the Batman in the point of like, they're almost indistinguishable. She's just earlier in the career, you know what I mean? Like she just hasn't taken down her Joe Chill yet.
Yeah, I mean, like it's an interesting kind of point to see where it's you see a lot of that, like the beginnings of something that could be considered altruistic, again, like you said, taking down somebody who's like, you know, in the grand scheme of things, it's a small person trying to take down the big bad who is, you know, taking him out, whether, you know, you see that as a moral good or moral evil, it's still something where there's a positive that comes out of that, for not just her, but for others that are affected by that. Because this is just a bad person who just should not be doing these bad things, and getting rid of that bad thing out of the equation is like, you know, a net positive for most people in the situation. I do agree that maybe she's not shown in more of a villain, like more villainous light, but I do think she definitely has like that, I don't want to use the word edge, but like, she definitely has that, like, just not entirely, I don't want to say anti-hero either, because I feel like all of those kind of, like, play it out to, like, something stupid, but I don't think it's that, because it has a little bit more nuance to it.
If I can, I think ultimately what you're getting at is, like, to me, the biggest difference between the two of them is she's out and out rejected entirely current power structures and expectations, specifically expectations of her as a woman. But, you know, when you come to skipping ahead to the climax of the movie, she is like, I'm killing Max because we're not taking him to the police. The police protect people like him. The system protects people like him. Bruce, for all of his ridiculous, you know, while he may be kind of, to a certain extent, going outside the norms by dressing up like a bat and fighting crime, he ultimately still aims to be working somewhat within the system, and is working within being help allied with the police. He interacts with them directly. He is an accepted part of life, whereas Catwoman is like almost anarchist in that she just has no interest in behaving within what is she supposed to do. And you can argue that maybe it's too strong of a swing. I don't know if I'd say that it is personally, but it's just she's been so pushed down and confined by everything that you get to, when she finally lashes out and destroys the apartment that she's supposed to have and stops dressing the way she's supposed to dress and starts just being who she wants to be. And then that's her extended motivation for everything. Bruce is still trying to fit Batman into the box, I think, of what's expected.
We should probably move on with the plot because we're getting pretty far.
I know, but if it goes a little long, it goes a little long.
Oh yeah, it goes a little long, but like we're talking about like something that happens in the end of the film. We should probably get to that when we talk about the end of the film. All right, let's go, Jason.
All right, on the night of the city Christmas tree lighting, Oswald and Catwoman kidnap the Ice Princess, Gotham's beauty queen, and lure Batman to the roof above the ceremony. Oswald pushes the princess to her death with a swarm of bats, framing Batman. When Catwoman objects to the murder and rejects his romantic advances, Oswald attacks her and she falls through a glass house. Batman escapes in the Batmobile, unaware Red Triangle has modified it, allowing Oswald to take it on a remote-controlled rampage. Before regaining control, Batman records Oswald's derogatory tirade against Gotham's citizens. The following day, Batman plays the audio at Oswald's mayoral rally, ruining his image and forcing him to retreat to Gotham Zoo. Oswald forsakes his humanity and embraces the name Penguin, initiating his true plan to abduct and kill Gotham's firstborn sons to avenge his own abandonment.
One of the things we haven't talked about a lot is how horny this movie is.
Well, specifically Penguin. Penguin is very
horny.
Penguin's a little pervert, and I really like little pervert Penguin in a way that, like, I'm disgusted by him, but in, like, the way I'm supposed to be. I like the characterization.
We haven't talked about how horny I was during this movie.
For Danny DeVito or for
Shrek?
Shrek, yes.
Yes to all three. No further comment.
Yeah, I mean, I like the characterization of Penguin as a little pervert. If you think about it, it kind of makes sense. The dude grew up alone in a sewer.
Might not have the strongest moral code in that
The one thing I
regard.
do want to add that I really feel like, as much as this movie is horny and people go, haha, horny, I feel like it does actually have a little bit of a message behind it, especially when you put, like, Catwoman in there, where it's like, you have this whole situation of, like you said, again, somebody forced into these roles, and it's her essentially breaking free of them in a lot of ways, and it's like also showing that misogyny that's placed in, like, while the Penguin obviously was abandoned by elite society, it's still kind of showing like how elite society tends to act, whether or not they are as disgusting as the Penguin in terms of visual features or not. There are still many in those upper echelons of society that are that disgusting in terms of a normal, in terms of how somebody acts.
Ultimately, what's telling is as much of an outcast as Penguin is, he is still much more quickly accepted into elite society than Selina is, who's just a woman. He is still more acceptable as a member of that. And I think you're absolutely right in that the movie's role in terms of the sexual humor, and in general, this movie, I think, worth noting, has a lot more humor coming through it than Batman 89 in a way that I think really, really works and feels natural and is not forced. It's also like, I think, a darker, heavier movie as well. But in terms of Catwoman, that whole character it is her taking it back. It is not like, let's cast a hot woman as Catwoman and shove her in a BDSM suit with a whip and be like, haha, she's hot. She is in control of every situation she is in. You have men throughout. Her origin is that of Max Schreck coming onto her in a way before murdering her that is very, very creepy. And then coming home from her resurrection to a voicemail from an advertising company talking about how you should buy this perfume so you can get sexually harassed by your boss, leading into her snapping, and that she is in the situation, like, when she is interacting with Batman, he is attracted to her, and she is in control of that, and is in control of her own body, and she is choosing unilaterally by herself to dress up like that. She is choosing every scenario, and is in control of her own sexuality and her own person. And that's really important, I think, from just a decency, quality standpoint, thematically with the movie, what it's trying to say is her being, I hesitate. I have a hard time pitting this down and calling it a feminist piece because it is a movie directed by a cis man, screenplay written by two cis men. Not that men can't and shouldn't be feminists. And then also I am a cis dude sitting in a basement with, two other cis dudes, all of us, aside male at birth, it's just, it feels like it's not necessarily my call to say, but at the very least, I would say this is a Catwoman movie, not a Batman movie. She has more screen time than Batman. She's, in my opinion, the lead character of this movie, despite the title, and is, I think, very clear that the screenwriters and/or Burton wanted to tell a Catwoman story. Not that Bruce isn't important in it, but it's one of those things that, like I said, I don't know enough about a lot of these guys' external politics and whatnot, but it feels very, very feminist, and a core part of the movie is about a woman taking the power back of herself and her own life, from a structure that has led her to be miserable and depressed and controlled.
Yeah, I agree with your point that it is more of a Catwoman movie. Like you said, Batman does play a big role in it, and he's a big part of it. But at the end of the day, the main story that they focus in on is Catwoman and Selina, falling into her own skin and becoming what she wants, and going up against, Max Schreck, who she sees as what's wrong with the world. And I think that it makes a more compelling story in some sense, just because there's so many Batman stories, there's so many movies about Batman, and not that that's a bad thing, but it's almost like a refreshing take to have it's still a Batman movie, but it's mostly focused around this one Batman character, rather than just a typical Batman movie, and I think that's an interesting way that they went about it.
She had more screen time. That's kind of neat.
Yeah, the last time I had watched this, when I watched it with Priya, I was I was sitting there it feels like she's in this movie more than him. Is she? And I looked up, and she's got a minute or two more screen time than, it's close, but she has the most screen time of any character in the movie.
Really?
Yeah.
How about Penguin?
I want to say he's third. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I was mostly just looking to see if my feeling that she had a lot of screen time was true.
I still find it surprising that they managed to balance all those characters, give you enough information about them, manage to, balance all the scenes that they're in, and find a way to juggle all of these characters really well, actually, because it's surprising.
I'm gonna go off that point because I totally understand where Jake and Jason were coming from, but I also felt like this also focused a lot on Penguin, and how basically he spent his whole life as an outcast, and basically he had to manipulate a very rich and powerful man into helping him, and he was accepted very quickly. And but I also like the scene where the scene where Batman plays his recording of when Penguin was controlling his Batmobile to the speakers of when he was making a mayoral speech, and just how quickly they turned on him. We were saying ourselves it could be faked, but people just immediately just turned on him, and then he immediately retreats to the zoo, and then despite saying he wants to be called Oswald for the entire movie, he insisted to be called Penguin. So he rejected his humanity altogether. So I found that very interesting.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think it was just him running to the spot that he was abandoned after feeling rejected is great.
It does show, it shows well how, he kind of got fed up with his whole life trying to fit into this place that rejected him, and then finally realizing, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't fucking like the people who threw me to the side and didn't want anything to do with me. And realizing that he maybe doesn't belong there, even though he so desperately wanted to.
I think what Matt just said made me realize that this movie kind of has the solution to the trope of let's have a villain in a movie be right, but then just kill a random person so that they're bad, and that you don't think oh, this radicalized person actually has a good point. And that Penguin ultimately is Penguin deciding fuck this, I don't need to conform to you is right. And that is, if he was a heroic figure, that would be a breakthrough moment, that we shouldn't operate, we don't need to operate within those predefined predetermined bounds, the bounds decided by the people oppressing other people. But he also is a fucking, wants to then kidnap and kill children, is his ultimate plan. And that's obviously horrible. These babies did nothing wrong. They're innocents. And then you have Batman kind of on the other side trying too hard to pigeonhole himself into that. But in my mind, you have Catwoman, who really, I can't think of anything like really bad she does. Like, I mean, I guess she blows up a department store, but like, who gives a fuck? There's no real people. She probably harms less people than Batman does in this movie.
She even protests against Penguin killing the ice princess, I suppose, because that's what they call it in this description. But yeah,
perfect.
She was like, why did she didn't think they were going to actually kill her at all.
Yeah, she sympathized with her. Oh, and just real quick, speaking of department store, fun fact, Michelle Pfeiffer, the Catwoman whips off some mannequin heads in that, and that is actually Michelle Pfeiffer doing that. There's behind the scenes video of it. It's incredible.
She's a badass bitch.
But yeah, I think the solution is almost like, if you're going to have a looking forward to a future movie, a Killmonger type figure, if you're going to have that villain who's like kind of right, but we have to have them just do obscenely awful things so that we don't want audiences to realize things. I think the solution is, if you're going to have, you can have that, but then you also need someone who's in the middle there, like a Catwoman.
I want to say something about that. Yes, a lot of movies, especially some Marvel movies, they will introduce a villain who has a point, a very good point, very intriguing point, but they'll ultimately make that guy the bad guy and justify that by making him just kill people. And so it's just so easy to say like, oh, he has a point. Oh, but he's the bad guy though, so it doesn't matter, right? This movie doesn't really do that with Penguin, because it connects his crime to his trauma of abandonment. Basically, like he wants to kill all the firstborns as like revenge for his own abandonment. And it's a monstrous act, but like you can sympathize with that a little more because it connects with his like own tragic backstory.
Well, yeah, it kind of goes into like the cycle of abuse where like he treated so poorly that, and those feelings were unresolved, so it boils up and becomes this issue where he then continues that and wants to inflict the same pain on others.
Exactly.
Really, his issue is he never stops seeking external validation. He never accepts himself and is proud of himself. Catwoman, her turn of character is that, and her arc is that she becomes Catwoman because that she realizes she doesn't need any of that. She doesn't need the acceptance of even a man that she loves like Bruce Wayne / Batman. She doesn't need his acceptance and approval to do what she wants to do. And Penguin never gets to that point. Even after he decides to reject society, he still clearly craves their approval by continuing to try to execute his plan.
Another thing that I know we didn't point out, and this is, I know we're extending this for a while, but
I'll cut a few minutes out anyway.
But it's also interesting to see from like the side of you have Batman, who's somebody who's like perfectly okay in being this lonely figure who sits in his cave and has Alfred but doesn't really talk to him that much. He's there, but like Batman's somebody who's like okay in his loneliness, and then you have the Penguin, who essentially is like, I need to be accepted. That's what I want. That's what I crave. I want to be accepted by people. So it's just an interesting kind of like to see the opposite sides of that, to see like a character that's lonely and that's okay in their loneliness, and a character that's lonely but really wants to just, their whole point is that they want to be accepted in some way, shape, or form, but can't be.
Yeah, I think Bruce just wants acceptance from one person. Yeah. He wants love.
I was actually going to say that because Penguin wants validation from the public, while Bruce just wants validation from like that person that he could personally connect with. You know what I'm trying to say?
That's the powerful, one of the best shots in any Batman movie and any comic book movie is Batman sitting in the dark. There's almost like a spotlight on him, picking the claw that Catwoman left in his body after their first fight out, bleeding, kind of treating his wound, and just alone in the dark, head hung, in the way that sums up like his loneliness and the element of it being self-isolation, but still kind of craving that connection with the person he loved. He already drove Vicky away from the last movie. He says like they couldn't reconcile the two lives. And now Catwoman being an opportunity for someone who maybe can do that, but he's almost shutting his own chances at happiness and connection down voluntarily to be lonely, kind of like what Sean said.
Yeah, it's like a self-destructive like behavior of his, that it's like he's so compulsed to be Batman that he doesn't, no matter how badly he craves and desires that love, it's not enough for him to shut that away. And they also show that another shot that I meant to bring up earlier, where he is just sitting there in his the first time they show the bat signal and the first time we see Bruce, he's just sitting alone. Basically, it just feels like he's just waiting to be Batman. Like he's waiting for people to need him so that he can go out and help the people of Gotham. And it has that awesome shot where the bat signal shines into his window and he gets up. So yeah, I think this movie does a great job of showing like his struggle of forcing himself into loneliness because he can't give up on his compulsion to continue to be Batman. Shall we go on?
Yeah. Read this last paragraph, baby.
All right.
Bring us home, baby.
All right, I'll bring us home.
Baby.
Selina attempts... What did you say?
Baby.
Oh.
Baby boy.
So nothing important.
Nothing at all.
Selina attempts to kill Shrek at his charity ball, the Masquerade, one might say, as
they say, unfortunately.
But Wayne intervenes, and the pair inadvertently realize each other's secret identities. Penguin crashes the event to kidnap Shrek's son, Chip, but Shrek volunteers himself instead. Batman neutralizes Red Triangle and stops the kidnapping, forcing Penguin to deploy his missile-equipped Penguin army to destroy Gotham. Batman's butler, Alfred Pennyworth, overrides the Penguin's control signal and redirects them to Gotham Zoo. As the missiles destroy the zoo, Batman unleashes a swarm of bats that causes Penguin to fall into the contaminated waters of the Arctic exhibit. Catwoman arrives to kill Shrek, rejecting Batman's plea to abandon her vengeance and leave with him. Catwoman is shot 4 times by Shrek, seemingly without effect, as she claims to have 2 of her 9 lives remaining. She electrocutes Shrek, causing an explosive power surge that seemingly kills the pair, but Batman finds only Shrek's charred remains. Penguin returns, but succumbs to his injuries before he can attack Batman and is laid to rest in the water by his penguins. Some time later, while Alfred drives him home, Wayne sees Selina's silhouette, but only finds a cat that he takes with him. The bat signal shines above the city as Catwoman looks on.
Sorry. I was just thinking of Selina Kyle kissing Shrek and just blowing up.
See, you're laughing. I think that's so awesome.
That's the thing, though. It's like, it's so cool, but like, when you say Shrek...
Oh, kissing Shrek, okay.
I think it's just her kissing a giant green
I misunderstood. I thought you were laughing at how she kills him. And I was like, are you kidding me? It's so perfect. She uses a taser to kill him, a weapon that was used against her earlier, a weapon that is synonymous with self-defense and self-defense of women against creepy men, to kill a man who was creepy and tried to kill her earlier. I was like, it's so perfect. And to try to kiss him via taser, and I was like, that's so perfect the way it flips it around. And then I was like, oh, he's just laughing because Shrek. I was so ready to defend it, and then I was like, oh.
It's just like when he said, like, she kissed Shrek, I started losing it.
Okay, but we all know Shrek's not dead because he has to appear in the sequel Shrek.
Yeah, I think there's they had a tie-in comic where they established that Ra's al Ghul actually used his Lazarus pit, but then there were some adverse effects which caused him to, appear as a green ogre.
And then he decides to live in a swamp.
So yeah, that's a little behind the scenes for you guys that might not know about that.
Before we talk about it, I do want to say, like, even though like Shrek is obviously like a irredeemable monster, like there is still like shreds of humanity to him. Like he basically volunteered to turn his life in exchange for his son. Like, you know what I'm talking about?
No, I agree. I think he does care for his son, but I also think it's a little bit, again, his reflection of he sees his son as himself. Like, it's almost like this, like, pageant dad, like, pageant mom. The dad who's, like, too intense at Little League games. I think there's two different reads on it, that he does genuinely love his son, and I think that may be true, but I also just see it as like his obsession with his legacy carrying on and his wealth carrying on.
I don't really see it like that, because usually when characters like, are shown to be like prideful or like obsessed with their own legacy, they usually try to like, be alive so that they can control it as long as they're there. They don't usually tend to like, exchange their own lives for, their kin.
I see what you're saying, and it's not necessarily, I don't think that he doesn't care about his son. I just mean, like, I think it's like, it's almost like if his son dies and he lives, when he eventually dies, his wealth would be more distributed. And there could be some arrogance in thinking he can get out of it too. I don't know. I'm not saying he doesn't have that shred of humanity in there. I don't necessarily, I do agree with you, but I just personally read it a little bit more as like his motivation being that conservation of power, and that is more done by his son surviving to carry on the Shrek dynasty for years to come than if his son dies and he's left alone.
I just imagined Duck Dynasty, but Shrek.
No, again, that relationship with his kids mirrors Penguin's parents hating him and Bruce's desire to just see his parents one more time. I think you're right, is him actually caring for his kid probably does rub Penguin a certain way.
I always took it similarly to you, Jake, that where like I almost felt like it seemed like I always read it as like he wanted to be a martyr so that like his legacy can go on, and like that'll be the story moving forward, that like he saved his son.
He's self-important.
Yeah, it's a self-righteous move, and not to say that, not to discredit Matt's take on it. That's just always how I saw it.
And I think Matt's take is key, because again, I think Matt's take, which is so valid and accurate, plays into Penguin's wanting to hate for Max, is like he's bitter because Max does seem to care about his son in a way that his parents never did, because his son is so visually acceptable. I'll say that I love the final standoff. I think it's great. Bruce pulling the mask off, the cowl off, even though it's a little goofy how he no longer has the eyeliner. But like the whole standoff between them, and then Shrek's reaction to finding out Selena Kyle is Catwoman, seeing the Bruce Wayne, why are you dressed up like Batman? Was Batman. Like the whole thing is so perfectly staged, and you're, again, very aware of where everything is. It's very well done. And then also in terms of Penguin's death, it is very sad and tragic. As evil as his final plans were, I think he's definitely still a tragic character. Yeah. And it is oddly beautiful seeing the Penguins be his pallbearers, because they seem to be the only ones that ever gave him any love and any understanding, and you're just kind of left wondering what could have been if he had just been treated that way from the start.
Well, yeah, that's what's so sad. Like the way they pushed him into the water is a little silly, but like it's really, really sad, because through this entire movie he's just looking for acceptance, and then in the end, at his death, the Penguins like push him into the water to give him like some sort of burial, basically showing that like after all this time, the Penguins accepted him. The Penguins are always there for him. And yeah, like he had acceptance. I guess it just wasn't enough, or he just didn't realize it. It's really sad.
It's also really adorable watching them push him into the water.
Well, okay, speaking of adorable, we'll get on to like Penguin's plot. So basically, like Batman foils his whole, kidnapping the first child plan. And so he does his plan B, which is send over a giant penguin army with African penguins and emperor penguins with like adorable like little strap-ons. Like they have
Matt, a strap-on is a fake penis that a woman wears.
What?
To peg her boyfriend or have sex with her girlfriend.
What do you call that? A strap? They strap the rocket to them.
It's just a rocket strapped
metal
to
part
them.
Center you could call a best breastplate for like that metal piece.
Okay, so
strap. But yeah, when you say strap on, I'm picturing the penguin with a dildo.
Big wiener.
With a massive fake cock.
Okay. No. The penguins did not have fake wieners on them. They instead have giant rockets strapped to their backs. And it's really cute because it's just this little tiny African penguins waddling around, and like these emperor penguins just waddling around too. They're bigger, but they're also very cute.
Penguins are strapped,
and they did use real penguins. We looked it up. They used CGI and animatronics and men in suits for like more complicated shots, but there was I believe it was 30 African penguins and 12 emperor penguins, 42 total, used during the production of the movie.
At the end of the day, this movie's just about how important pets are.
Kind of true.
You know, Catwoman, everything goes to shit. She gets thrown off a building, but her cats are there to save her.
Except for the one that nibbles on her fucking finger.
Penguin, the only people that ever had any affection towards him were his penguins. It's all about pets.
Batman has bat.
Well, he doesn't. He uses them as
He does.
You know,
Yeah, it is
uses
true.
like bats.
Bats are actually real. Bats are relevant in this.
Oh, but I want to get to Jake's favorite part, which is like the final standoff, and how like basically Batman tries to give Selina a way out, but she says she can't live with herself if she lets Max go. And yeah, basically she uses like almost like all of her like leftover lives to just kill Max and just give him the sweet kiss of death. And it's really cool because like not only does she like, you know, tase him with the taser, but she grabs like the electronic cable and on top of her, so that it just everything starts exploding. It's really cool. And the aftermath, as Batman's trying to like go through the rumble, he like unveils Max's corpse, and it's really, really cool. Like it's just like,
Hey, those practical effects were neat.
they were really neat. And then it's just like, yeah, like the way like, and then as he's going through the rumble, like Penguin like emerges from the tainted water, and like black ooze is like spewing from his nose and mouth, like goes down his attire. That was a really cool fucking shot too. And it's extra layer of sadness, like when he like tries to like shoot Batman, the umbrella he pulls out is like the kid one, like the toddler one. You know what I'm trying to say? It's just kind of showing like he never had one. He never had a childhood. It was robbed of him. And then yeah, like he was given a burial by really the only creatures that ever cared about him. Yeah, and the music during that scene was amazing too.
Say music throughout. It's Danny Elfman. We talked about it last time,
think
but it's so.
It's just as good in this one as it is.
That goes without saying, but like Penguin sequence in particular is amazing. But yeah, like that's really it.
I think it's a tragedy that Burton. I mean, this movie to me has a perfect ending for itself with, Batman, Bruce, you know, seeing a cat and hoping to see Selina again, before being called once more to go be Batman. But then with the shot, rather than ending on him looking at the signal as it did in the first one, kind of mirroring that, but with Catwoman rising, and looking at the signal, and the questions of what's to come. It's such a beautiful, perfect ending for the movie, and it's such a tragedy. While I am someone, we'll talk about this more later, I actually enjoy the Schumacher movies. It is such a shame that Burton did not get to continue the story he wanted to tell. We didn't get to see where he went next with Bruce and Catwoman, and I would have loved to see his interpretation of Robin, what he was going to do with Billy D. Williams coming to be Two-Face. It is, to me, like maybe the biggest what if missed opportunity in the history of like comic book adaptations, that we didn't get to see at least one more Burton Batman movie.
It's so sad, but like it ended on a pretty good note. So it's a shame we didn't get a third movie. It's a shame that Billy D. Williams was robbed of the Two-Face role. But, you know, you get what you get, and we got something really great. We got something really special. Honestly, 2 masterpieces, you know. I'll take 2 masterpieces rather than none.
Yeah, and I also have a lot of love for the Joel Schumacher movies, but I will always be curious of what would have, you know, he had certain visions clearly because he was already, you know, setting up to do the next one before they kicked him off.
They did make a comic, Batman 89, that is a sequel to this movie, written by Sam Hamm, who had writing credits on both this and the first one. And I mean to read that. I've heard pretty solid things. I'm going to check it out myself at some point. But, you know, that's still just not the same as Burton as another, like, full movie. No disrespect to the comic medium, obviously. It's my favorite art form, but it's just still not the same, especially when you're talking about having one screenwriter write a comic versus having Burton make another movie and having all of the people collectively that would have been involved with making the third one make a movie versus a 6-issue miniseries decades later.
Yeah, it just sucks. Like there's a part of me that just gets sad when there's like that untapped potential where the artist didn't get to fully realize what they wanted to do.
Yeah, it really does. Like, it does hit a point where you're like, you mourn what you missed and what could have been more than it's a sad situation that like I mean, like, I can say this as speaking towards modern things of, like, them currently or having recently come out that, you know, Batgirl isn't coming out and that ship has fully sailed and was canceled, and after it was made, for the most part, that it's, like, it kind of sucks to see when, like, an artist kind of doesn't get to finish their vision and kind of doesn't get to, you know, you get to see part of the picture, but you don't get to see the whole, you know, portrait that they've been making, that they've been working on, so it kind of just, it hurts a lot to see, like, what I see is fantastic, and what could have been was probably also fairly great, but it still just sucks that it's like you're missing that piece of art that could have been. So it sucks. No matter what, in any situation, even if it's because obviously we don't have any idea how we would have felt about that. Maybe it's the worst thing in the world. Maybe it's the best thing ever. We don't get that choice to make as consumers of said art form, and the artist doesn't even get to have their say in putting it out. That kind of makes it hurt that much more.
Corporations are inherently anti-art, and we can live without corporations, but we cannot live without art and artists.
Yeah.
End of story.
So many times that artists don't get to finish their masterpieces. Like, can you imagine if Michelangelo was working on the Sistine Chapel, and then his boss comes by, pulls him out, and just says, you know,
we're going a different direction.
Religions identify with God. Maybe you could make it more anonymous. Maybe make it bright light, right? All cultures can identify with that. And just do something stupid like that.
You sound a little bit like you're complaining about SJWs right now.
What?
Because, okay, what I'm saying, I don't, you sound, yeah. This is the type of, you're sounding, I get what you're going for of he didn't get to finish his vision, but I'm not going to lie to you, it's coming across a little bit like those damn fucking liberals taking Christianity from us.
Trying to relate to everything.
Yeah. They want other, I know that's not what you mean, but just heads up, it sounded a little bit Republican-y.
Okay. That's totally not what I meant, but okay.
I just wanted to clear the air in case anyone listens and is like getting the wrong idea, because
I had no idea that could be interpreted that way.
Because it's clear to us and us knowing you and that you're not a piece of shit, but there's never, see, the thing about people like that is they're stupid, and they would come across us and be like, yeah, this guy's one of us. And I shouldn't profile with a bad fucking hick accent, because, you know, there's plenty of great people from all parts of the world, but
and there's plenty of bad people from all parts of.
Absolutely. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page, that we are very pro representation of all cultures.
Yeah, man. I plugged Lake Pacific at the beginning of this.
And
their
there's
lead
nothing
singer's
more
gay.
than a white man cutting off an Asian man to say that.
I should have said, instead of his boss, I should have just said a producer or something like that.
No, I mean, I think boss was a good idea. I just the religion
It's
part was a little...
the cutting out of the religious part that makes it a little bit more Republican, man.
I have heard a lot of Christian people talk, like, recently Christian people complaining about Miss Marvel, you know, representing Islam.
If they want a movie, they can just watch their shitty Christian movies.
I just never understand.
Your tastes are already bad already. They appeal to your tastes. Just listen to your shitty Christian rock too.
Dude,
you're as vanilla as you get. Well, fuck you.
First of all, there are some great Christian rock bands. Under Oath, great band. But obviously I know I'm preaching to the choir here, and we probably all agree on this, but it's like, I just never understand that angle, because it's like, well, Muslims exist, Islamic people exist, so it would make sense for them to be in movies, or TV shows, because Miss Marvel's a TV show.
Bigotry will never make sense.
Yeah. It's just like, whether you care for these people or not, them simply existing is a fact. So why are you
telling these people to accept reality? And it's obvious that they won't.
Yeah, I know, but
there's
it's
no
just,
point of
no.
preaching.
Well,
to
listen, I know,
because these people will never.
I know
ever.
people like that are so far gone that it's not even worth wasting your breath on them. But it's just always crazy to me.
And we shall not waste another breath.
I know. I just think it's stupid and funny.
Yeah, I think we've definitely sufficiently covered the movie now that we're talking about other things. Guys, I think we exhausted our thoughts.
No, I can do another hour on economic policy and
Let's have our first 2-hour episode.
All right, so
Probably instead do our closing.
yeah, let's wrap this shit up. All right. Favorite thing, least favorite thing? Would you recommend? Kick it off to you guys.
Oh, okay. Well, my favorite thing is, like the first one, the cinematography is amazing. The sets are amazing. But, like, this time, like, not to say, like, the original movie's performances were amazing, but, like, these performances in particular, like Michelle Pfeiffer, Danny DeVito, I'm tripping over my words right now, but you get what I mean. They're amazing. Like, they take this film to another level. And, yeah, that's really it. I don't really have any dislikes with this movie. It's all well constructed, well paced, well acted. Everything else, from the music to the pacing again. I can't really think of anything that I disliked. Yeah, recommend.
I'm gonna throw out a couple. Here's the thing. I think this movie is damn near flawless. I have a couple things that I can nitpick, and I like to get that out of the way. So I'm gonna lead off with those. But just bear in mind as I say them, neither of these are a big deal. I think there's a couple lines that are kind of corny. I think it's sort of in tone with the movie, but there's a couple that are a little bit much for me. And that said, for every one of those, you get like 3 or 4 lines that are like, I have 2 lives left. I think I'll save one for next Christmas. Or, what's the line Penguin says about the slab? They wouldn't put me on a pedestal, so I'm laying them on a slab. Things like that are so great that it more than makes up for it. The only like semi-real issue, and again, it's a small deal though, is they do kind of introduce the whole we framed Batman for this murder thing and then do nothing with it. It's kind of floated out there, and then the rest of the movie resolves, and it's really not like a factor to the point of it's just kind of like weird that they included that, because there's nothing in the rest of the movie about Batman being framed for murder and like the public perception of Batman changing, which would sort of fit with what they're trying to do, but it just feels like it's floated out there and then left out there. That would be my only like semi-serious issue, but again, it's such a small issue compared to the grand scale of how great this fucking movie is.
I can kind of defend it because, Penguin is the one who discredited Batman in the first place, and then he was exposed for being a fake. So
I know it's just a very quick resolution if you're going to do that. I think if you're going to do a whole subplot of Batman getting framed for murder, I think you kind of have to linger on it longer than being like a scene later, Penguin's discredited. It just feels like a really tidy, quick resolution for the issue.
Well,
yeah, I understand that.
Well, I do think that was probably just a poor situation that they threw that in and kind of just left it to hang. To me, and I obviously have not read Batman 89, so it's like I really don't know what they were going for forward, but it feels like that was more of like a setup thing, because it goes
anyway,
because they don't really talk about it afterwards after it happening. They don't go into the public perception of Batman. The only thing that makes me question, like, they just wanted to shove that under the rug, was the bat signal at the end.
Well, yeah, it just, to me, it's like, I think it definitively gets resolved in a way, because it's like the very next moment after that like whole like action sequence is the Penguin press conference where Batman plays the audio and discredits Penguin, and then the finale happens after that, and it just feels like it's the type of thing. And I wouldn't want them to introduce another 20 minutes of movie necessarily, but to me, I'd almost maybe make it so that like the Penguin just has his press conference, the tide turns against Batman, the finale happens, and then post the finale maybe there starts to be some things coming out in the paper about, Penguin wasn't what we thought he was, rather than in that moment, just so that for at least a little while you're like, okay, there's an impact and this plan was somewhat successful and blah 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 blah. Or I don't know, it's like I said, it's small potatoes, it's not a big deal, but if I'm picking something to be my least favorite thing, it's that. That said, I love fucking everything else about this movie so much. I think this movie is near perfect. Penguin's lair is great. The way it's kind of like visually the way it's visually similar but different to the Batcave, with the Batcave having these like kind of almost floating looking rocks in Bruce's isolation, and it's very dark, and while obviously Penguin's lair is dark in the sewer too, it's this like light stone, and the surrounding the centerpiece for where it used to be clearly a show put on by the zoo for the Penguin being a bit of a pedestal that Penguin is looking for. Danny DeVito's great, Christopher Walken's great, Keaton's everything's great. The movie's beautiful. I mean, it's one of those things. I've already sung a lot of the praises that I have, but my absolute favorite thing has to be Catwoman. Pfeiffer as Catwoman is so perfect. The reinvention of the character is so fitting with with the new origin and everything, with just the world that's already been created, as well as just the themes of the movie. I think it is such a perfect example of fitting a character into the story that you want to tell, but still feeling like I still feel Catwoman vibes there, even if it's so drastically different in origin, and it's such a departure in a lot of ways. And to me, it's just, she is the lead of the movie. It's Batman Returns, but she's got the most screen time. It is Catwoman's movie. She steals the show. I have absolutely no notes. Suit is perfect. Performance is perfect. The way it's just every scene is stolen. Yeah, I mean, Pfeiffer's Catwoman is incredible. And again, really mad we never got to see more of it. That we never got a Catwoman spinoff that they were planning. That we didn't get to see her in a third Burton movie. It's all a shame.
There was a spinoff?
Yeah, they were developing a Catwoman movie.
Oh.
As well as a third and
that
possible
turned
fourth
into
Burton.
the
yeah,
We got a great Catwoman movie out.
yeah, like long
the
form.
movie
kind of
that shall
evolved into
not
a
be
Halle Berry one.
named until necessary.
The best
And then-
Catwoman movie ever.
But yeah, I mean, if it's not abundantly clear, of course I recommend. This is my favorite movie that we have watched so far for this podcast. I think it's an absolute masterpiece. You're fucking wasting your own life if you haven't watched it. I gotta be honest. I think it's almost perfect.
I'll assume you recommend.
Yeah, I said that.
He did say that.
I heard
Fucking
words.
idiot.
What? Dead. Like, oh my god, I recommend it.
He doesn't listen to me. He hates me. And
He
thinks I'm
doesn't
ugly.
listen to his own podcast when he's recording it.
Nope. I'll get into mine. My favorite thing I have to say is I'm gonna give it to two things, and that's like the cinematography and the writing, because there are so many shots in this film that are fantastic, that are just oozing with like this style and substance to it, not just in a situation of like, oh, look at this cool image. It's more of the situation of like the framing of the image, how it makes this, it's really like, there's the whole thing of every frame a painting kind of thing, and that's really how it feels with this movie for certain parts. Like Batman in his cave when he's been stabbed by Catwoman and taking out the wound, and like, dealing with the wound. There's like, Catwoman in her apartment after it's been destroyed, and you see hell here in the background, and it's just, you have so many shots like that just perfectly encapsulate the character, the symbolism, and the themes of the film, and manage to like come full circle. And having, the writing to go along with that and push those scenes along and make that make sense within the context of the film, and to not drop the ball anywhere between any of those points is incredibly impressive, and incredibly like just cool to see that teamwork and all of that effort come together into something that actually feels like genuine, like thought and artistry was put into it. So that's definitely like my favorite point about it. And I don't know if I can think of anything that was like my least favorite. I mean, if anything, a lot of it's more that it's just like, yeah, a lot of it's dated, but like I feel like the style of and the substance of that oozes well past some of the dated stuff of it, like, people being able to notice, Michael Keaton's whole taking off the makeup and, shit like that, where it's like you can't really hide that in post-production or anything like that, or just things that go like, misplaced, but otherwise, like, it's fantastic for everything that it does and everything that it's trying to do. I think it does really well. So, recommend.
Yeah, my favorite thing, I mean, in general, my favorite thing about the movie is Catwoman, but since Jake already said everything that I could possibly say about that, my other favorite thing is just the costumes and character design in all of this. I mean, obviously, Matt talked about how great Penguin looks, but he looks fantastic. The Catwoman suit is my favorite Catwoman suit we've ever seen on screen. It's so unique, and it's so Tim Burton. Like it feels so perfectly fit in a Tim Burton movie, and I love how it's at any given scene there's different parts of it that are torn open or scraped off or whatever. And I think that adds to like, the whole theme of her having 9 lives, and, she's getting banged up the whole time, and so forth. And even before she becomes Catwoman, when she's just the assistant to Max, and she's, she's dressed up in a very, typical, like female secretary kind of outfit that maybe she doesn't have a lot of choice in what she wears and this and that, and she looks a little disheveled as she seems throughout the movie, before she becomes Catwoman, obviously. So that's just, I think, the way every character looks is fantastic.
Yeah, but Shrek looked out of place, right? I mean, Big Green Ogre.
I actually did want to mention him too. Like, even though he was clearly like the least spectacular looking villain, he still like had this, presence in the way that he looked with his crazy silver hair, basically, and so forth. And even the circus gang, they all looked batshit crazy, and it was sick. Least favorite thing is that we didn't get to see where the story went from here. And I absolutely recommend it. It's one of my favorite movies ever. Top 2 Batman movies, in my opinion. It's fantastic.
Live action Batman or total Bat? Like, I mean, it could be
definitely top 2 live action. I haven't thought about including animated, so I don't know.
They're almost different.
Yeah, it's tough.
They're equal, but they're different.
They're equal, but it's tough to compare just because they're such different mediums. But yeah, in terms of live action Batman movies, definitely top 2. Possibly still top 2, including animated. So anyway, I'd like to outro this bullshit. Thank you to @Vadamorte for art. That's our buddy Alo. Great guy. Go check him out on Twitter. He's great artist, great friend as well. Jake Walter 98 on Letterboxd. That's this goon's.
I can always plug my own Letterboxd. No. Okay.
No, I want
plug it for him.
He reviews movies on there. He's great follow. I follow him. He's one of the 2 people I follow. And Sean's the other one. Jason Plugs. It says Jason Plugs. Do I have to get my butt plugs?
Your music. Just plug your music. This is running long.
Okay, so anyway. I make music, the Upsides PA on Instagram, the_Upsides PA on Twitter, the Upsides on SoundCloud. I made the intro outro music, yada yada yada. All that bullshit. Listen to it if you want. If for some fucking reason you're interested in continuing to check us out, you can follow us on @illiterate_pod on both Twitter and Instagram. You can reach us at culturallyilliteratepod@gmail.com. Send us hate mail. Tell us how stupid we are. And all episodes.
Yes, do that.
And all episodes will be on YouTube as well as our Culturally Illiterate podcast channel. On Spotify and Apple Podcasts, all that. We will be back. Oh, let's fucking go. We will be back next episode for our first animated feature, Batman Mask of the Phantasm.
Ooh.
Yay.
I love this string of Batman.
Me too.
So I'd be lying if I said it wasn't a coincidence, but it did just happen to work out that this episode has released right before Christmas, and it is about Batman Returns, a Christmas movie. And a Christmas movie more than just in the sense of it is set during Christmas. It uses that Christmas setting to emphasize kind of the themes of loneliness and that longing for love and acceptance that Bruce, Oswald, Selena, the Shreks all feel, and that kind of common fear that everybody has about like being alone for the holidays, for Christmas, for any time of the year or important time for you. And I just wanted to take a moment to kind of have put something out there and appreciate the fact that I get to have so many great people in my life, and that appreciation that comes out at this time of year, and to get to kind of have the privilege of being on the outside looking in at these characters experiencing these issues. Obviously, first and foremost, I want to big thank you and I love you to everyone I name, but starting with Jason, Sean, and Matt, who, without a second thought, when I said, hey, let's do a podcast together, let's, invest some money into this thing that's gonna just be a hobby, and invest time week in and week out, that you all did it with me, because I have such a blast recording every time with all 3 of you. You are some of my favorite people, and there's nobody. This has been such a blast for me. Thank you so much, because this is just a really big example of the type of friends and people that you are. Of course, I want to thank Priya, girlfriend of over 10 years at this point, who absolutely does not need. I would not expect her to listen to all of this, but week in and week out, listens to every single episode thoroughly and live text me reactions. I really appreciate it. And just the support in general. When your dumb little white boyfriend was like, I'm going to start a podcast with my friends, it means the world to me that you always support me. Haley, my sister, Jason's sister as well, a big thank you, and I love you for, again, this is a topic that means fuck all the Haley that Haley's not interested in, that I didn't expect her to really listen to this, but I know that you listen to every episode, and that also means the world to me. The same thing goes to both of my parents, mom and dad. I love both of you and appreciate so much that you both, upon finding out about this, immediately were like, where is it? Can I find it? I want to listen. Yet again, another group of people that I don't expect that of my friends. I don't expect that of my family, but everyone's been doing it. With that, a thank you to Alo gets a shout out every episode, because Alo is an incredible artist. VODMORTE on Twitter, again, who made the art for this podcast and is also an incredible friend who has been very supportive of the pod. He also does work on YouTube with the YouTube channel Weekend Showcase, so I really recommend checking that out. It's a fantastic channel, and in particular Alo's editing and commentary on it are fantastic. Shout out to my friend Casey, who took the time to leave a review, who always, every time I see you, man, you always ask about how the podcast's going, and it's thoughtful and appreciative, and it shows you how much you care. I love you, man. And then I want to thank two more friends who, honestly, their creativity and the way they put themselves out there, similarly to how Alo is a filmmaker, very talented guy, and his creativity and his willingness to put himself out there has continually inspired me for as long as I've known him. Well, these two people, it's the same thing. The fact that they put out their wonderful personalities into the world to make entertainment for people doing things they're passionate about really made me want to do something that I had a good time doing, like this podcast. So I want to thank my friend Jordan, who you can find as Digital Ramen on Twitch and on YouTube. The Twitch channel is The Digital Ramen. Fantastic live streamer. Jordan has so much charisma. He's so funny, so much fun. And like I said, like his work is really something that motivated me to want to do this. So please, if you enjoy gaming, if you enjoy just like a fun personality, or if you enjoy this podcast, huge inspiration, check out Digital Ramen. And then also my friend Space Charms. Again, you can find her as Space Charms on Twitch. That is with a Z on Charms. Another example of just a fantastic, fun personality just doing something they're passionate about, and made me realize, like, why this seems like a fun thing to do with friends. Well, why not? So huge thank you to both of you for being something that helped me get out of my comfort zone and make something that I feel really proud of. And I think you, Jason, Sean, Matt, I hope you're all proud of this too. But seriously, if I'm forgetting anyone, thank you. If anyone listening to this now who has ever taken the time to listen to Culturally Illiterate, big thank you. I love doing this. I hope that's true for the rest of my friends and co-hosts. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. I hope whatever this time of year means to you, you get to be with loved ones. It's really special to me. I'm glad we were kind of able to coincidentally put out like an oversized Christmas special, with this being an over 90-minute episode and it being a Christmas movie and Christmas time, and to hit on these themes and the importance of showing people compassion and love, not just during the holidays but year round. So everybody I listed and more, and anyone who's ever supported this podcast, thank you so much. Merry Christmas from all of us, and please join us again in 2 weeks for Batman: Mask of the Phantasm.